Sometimes in politics, the ground doesn't just shift a little bit, it cracks wide open. And that's exactly what we're looking at today. We're going to talk about a small Welsh town that just set off a political earthquake, one that's sending shockwaves way beyond its borders, right across the entire UK. So to really get the scale of this, you've got to understand one crucial thing. For more than a century, 100 years, the town of Caffili was an absolute fortress for the Labour Party. I mean, through thick and thin, national elections, local elections, they always won. It was basically one of the safest bets in all of British politics. Well, until now. Okay, the numbers here tell a really brutal story. Just look at this. Back in 2021, Labour had a commanding 46% of the vote. But then, fast forward to this recent by-election, and wow, their support just plummets, all the way down to 11%. They didn't just lose first place, they ended up a distant third. This wasn't a dip, it was a total freefall. So the big question is, where on earth did all those votes go? Well, with Labour's century of dominance completely shattered, two very different parties rushed in to fill that power vacuum. And this turned the whole election into a fascinating battle between two new and very powerful forces in Welsh politics. And this right here just lays out the new political divide perfectly. On one side, you have Plaid Cymru, they're progressive, very focused on Welsh nationalism. And on the other side, Reform UK, populist, with a focus on the whole of the UK. We're not talking about slightly different flavors here. These are polar opposites, and they were fighting for the very same voters in the very same town. So, how did it all shake out? Well, it looks like the battle lines were drawn pretty clearly along generational lines. The polling suggests Plaid Cymru was really resonating with younger voters, the 18 to 34 crowd. Meanwhile, Reform UK's support was coming overwhelmingly from people aged 55 and over. So the town wasn't just split politically, it was split by age. But let's be real, a 100-year dynasty doesn't just crumble into dust overnight for no reason. To really understand what happened, we kind of have to perform an autopsy on Labour's historic defeat. What went so wrong, so incredibly fast? This quote really just captures the absolute shock that people on the ground were feeling. A reporter for The Guardian, Stephen Morris, he put it perfectly. He said, just a couple of years ago, the idea of Labour losing here was unimaginable. It just highlights that this wasn't some slow, steady decline. This was a sudden, catastrophic political event. So, what caused it? It really was a perfect storm. For starters, there was a lot of frustration with the national government in Westminster. Then, closer to home, the Welsh Labour Party was dealing with its own donation scandal. But on a more fundamental level, people just felt ignored on those bread-and-butter issues, like the skyrocketing cost of living. All of this just left Labour incredibly vulnerable to attack from all sides. And this, right here, is the key to the whole thing. Labour got caught in what you'd call a Pinsir movement. You had these unhappy, more progressive voters peeling off to Plaid Cymru on the left. But at the exact same time, you had more of their traditional, conservative-leaning voters being pulled away by Reform UK on the right. Trying to fight a war on two fronts like that, it turned out to be impossible. Okay, so that's the story of why Labour lost. But this isn't just about the loser. What does the victory for Plaid Cymru actually tell us about what voters wanted? Because the answer, it's a little more complicated than you might think. So, while Plaid Cymru definitely ran a solid local campaign, there's a ton of evidence that their victory was supercharged by something else entirely: fear. One young Plaid organizer said their inbox was just flooded with messages from friends who normally don't care about politics, all saying they were turning out for one reason and one reason only: to stop Reform UK from winning. It became a tactical vote. And you can see the proof right in the numbers. Turnout for this by-election hit 50%. That's a record high for this kind of election in Wales. People were not apathetic. They were incredibly motivated. This wasn't just another day at the polls for them. It was seen as a crucial battle to prevent a political outcome that a lot of voters just could not accept. And the winner, Plaid Cymru's Lindsay Whittle. He certainly saw this as a massive watershed moment. In his victory speech, he delivered this really powerful message. He wasn't just framing this as a local win, he called it the dawn of a new beginning for Welsh politics, and he sent a direct warning shot to all the established parties. So you might be thinking, okay, but why does one by-election in one Welsh town matter to the rest of the UK? Well, it matters because what happened in Caerphilly isn't some isolated incident. It's a symptom of a much, much bigger trend that's happening right now. This timeline really helps put it all in context. A lot of political commentators are seeing this really ominous parallel with what happened to Labour up in Scotland.
See, back in 1999, Labour was dominant in both Scotland and Wales. But by 2007, the SNP had taken over in Scotland. Now here we are in 2025, and the fall of a stronghold like Caerphilly suggests that the exact same pattern, the crumbling of a Labour heartland, might be happening all over again, but this time in Wales.
And this is the big takeaway, really. The era when you could just count on certain regions to vote a certain way, it looks like it might be over. From Scotland all the way down to Wales, the old political certainties are just breaking apart, and what's left is a much more fragmented, unpredictable, and frankly, volatile landscape. Which, of course, leaves us with this final, massive question. Was the earthquake in Caerphilly just a freak event, a one-off perfect storm of local and national issues, or is it a chilling preview of what's to come, a new normal, where old loyalties are dead and gone, and every single election is an unpredictable free-for-all? The answer to that could redefine British politics for a generation to come.